Level Up to Lift Up by Kenny Knight III, founder of Rage Fitness and Salute Supplements, U.S. Marine Corps and Army veteran, speaker, entrepreneur. Read by Rick Gines. This is a truthful recollection of the author's life experiences. To protect the privacy of individuals, some names and identifying details have been changed. This book is not meant to be used, nor should it be used, to diagnose or treat any medical or psychological condition. Readers are advised to consult their own medical advisors, whose responsibility it is to determine the condition of and the best treatment for the reader. Dedication. To my wife and the other grinders, the go-getters, and the ones who refuse to quit, this book is for you. Acknowledgements. To my readers, thank you for allowing me to share my truth, raw and unfiltered. You're the reason I keep writing these words and building these principles. Prologue. Blessings from Lessons. When I was 16, I packed a small bag and went to Georgia to stay with my dad. He wasn't there building a new life or chasing a better job. He was hiding out from the police. My mom sent me anyway. She thought I needed my father's discipline, leadership, and presence. Truth was, I was starting to spiral back home. Trouble in school, bad decisions, a temper I couldn't control. Georgia wasn't salvation, it was just a different kind of chaos. I made a few friends there, tight little crew of about 4 or 5 guys. There was Man, his brothers, Chris and Sam, and then there was a scrawny kid we called 75 Cent. Every day without fail, he'd ask someone for 75 cents so he could buy a pack of cookies. It was funny at first, just a nickname, but life had a way of getting dark real fast. One afternoon, 75 Cent came to us busted up, lips split, face swollen, eyes wild. He told us about some guys from a local church group had jumped him. Looking back, I don't know who started it. We didn't ask many questions. All we knew was one of ours had been hurt. And in the world I grew up in, you didn't let that slide. We went and armed ourselves. Chris was fast with a pair of nunchucks he carried everywhere. Man grabbed a baseball bat. Sam found a piece of pipe. I found a stick I'd driven nails through and fixed a chain to the end. And 75 Cent came with us too, beat up but ready. We went straight to that church, banged on the door, and about 10 of them came out. We moved out into the street. Words were thrown. I don't even remember what set it off. But I do remember Man swung first, cracked someone in the knees with that bat, and all hell broke loose. They had the numbers. We had weapons. We left them bleeding in the street. We didn't stick around to celebrate. We ran straight back to Chris and Man's house. 30 minutes later, the cops showed up, guns drawn. We got cuffed and hauled off to jail. I'll never forget the sick feeling in my stomach as I sat there in the holding cell, knowing the only person I could call was my father, a man who himself was hiding from the law. He came anyway, picked me up without a word. The next day, as I stepped out of his apartment, I saw the same group of guys from the fight coming around the building. My heart dropped into my shoes. I told my dad. He didn't hesitate. He grabbed his .357 Magnum with a 9-inch barrel and handed it to me. He picked up his own .44 Magnum with an 11-inch barrel. I'll never forget those weapons because he was so proud of them. And then he tied on his red bandana. That was his signal he was ready for whatever came. We walked out into the middle of that apartment complex, and my dad gave me instructions to stand back to back. It was like something out of a movie. We circled slow, both of us with our guns behind our backs, scanning the crowd. The group stopped when they saw us. They couldn't see what we were holding, but they knew. They backed away. That was the last I ever saw of them. That day burned itself into my memory. I realized 3 things. Number 1, my dad had my back, right or wrong. Number 2, I wasn't invincible as I thought I was. I was scared. Number 3, I knew deep down if I didn't start doing better, I wasn't going to live very long. That moment was one of the first times I understood what investment in yourself really meant. Not money. Not cars, not street respect. It meant getting serious about my own life, my decisions, my discipline, my future. Because if you don't put in the work to build yourself, All you can offer the people around you is pain and chaos. Chapter 1. Stop waiting for permission. Most people think the first step to changing their life is waiting for the right opportunity. It's not. The first step is deciding you're done living beneath your own potential. I learned that lesson the hard way. In high school, I wasn't some overachiever. I was the kid who wanted to coast. I loved my auto mechanics class. I could get lost in the smell of oil and the sound of engines all day. But English and math, I didn't see the point. I didn't put in the effort. I wasn't stupid, I just didn't care enough to try. That attitude caught up with me in 11th grade. I failed English. I failed math. 2 core classes. I'll never forget the feeling at the end of that year when I looked at my transcript and realized I was in deep trouble. I was already a kid who didn't have much direction. I didn't have a college plan. I didn't have a safety net. The only thing I had was the idea that maybe, just maybe, I could get out, serve my country, and build a better life in the Marine Corps. But there was a problem. The Marines weren't going to take a guy who couldn't even pass high school. I had backed myself into a corner. I was staring at a future that looked a whole lot like the streets I was trying to get away from. Stuck, angry, broke. That was the moment the switch flipped. Nobody was coming to save me. I had to save myself. Going into 12th grade, I knew I had to double up. 2 English classes, 2 math classes, all while keeping up with my vocational auto mechanics. That meant no more coasting, no more excuses. So I put my head down and went to work. I showed up. I studied. I asked questions. I did the homework I used to blow off. And you know what I found out? I could do it. I knew I wasn't dumb. I just hadn't been applying myself. The very thing I thought I couldn't do became one of my best achievements that year. I buckled down and got good grades in both English and math, 2 subjects I had once written off as unnecessary. That year taught me one of the biggest lessons of my life. When you decide to invest in yourself and you back it up with consistent effort, you can change your whole trajectory. That decision to straighten up and pass my classes was the first real investment I ever made in my future. It opened the door to the Marines. It proved to me that discipline beats talent when talent refuses to work. It set the stage for everything I've done since. The best investment you'll ever make is in your own growth. Not the car you buy, not the money you flash, but the skills, the discipline, and the mindset you build inside yourself. I share this because a lot of people think leveling up starts with money or opportunity. It doesn't. It starts with making a decision and then showing up for yourself. I wasn't some star student. I didn't have a perfect upbringing. I didn't have an easy road. But I learned that when you decide you're done waiting and you're willing to do the hard, unglamorous work, the work nobody sees, that's when the doors start to open. You can't lift others until you've first leveled up yourself. And leveling up starts with something simple, taking responsibility. That 12th grade year was the first time I proved to myself that I could do hard things. That proof became the foundation I stood on later, in the Marines, in business, in life. Key takeaway for the reader. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You don't need a perfect past. What you need is the willingness to stop coasting, face your weaknesses head on, and do the work. That's the first real investment in yourself. That's where leveling up begins. Chapter 2. The first investment, your body and mind. When I first met my Marine Corps recruiter, his name was Sergeant Gearhart. Even his name sounded like the kind of man who could grind steel with his bare hands. He came to my school one day, crisp uniform, voice like thunder, confidence pouring out of him. He asked me, "What do you want to do if you join the Corps?" I didn't hesitate. "I want to be a grunt." Truth was, I didn't even know exactly what a grunt was. I just knew they were supposed to be the hardest, toughest Marines, the ones who didn't quit, the ones who lived in the dirt, carried the heavy packs, went first into the fight. That sounded like the challenge I needed. Sergeant Gearhart broke it down for me. He said, grunts are infantry. They're always in the field, dirty, tired, hungry. When the rounds start flying, they're the first ones there, and the life expectancy of a grunt in combat? It's short once the shooting starts. He looked at me straight in the eye, waiting to see if that would scare me off. It didn't. It fueled me. All I could think was, that's exactly what I want. Coming from where I came from, I needed something that would test me. I'd already proven to myself in school that when I applied pressure, I could change my story. But I wanted more than grades now. I wanted to prove that I had what it takes. The physical part never scared me. Getting up early, running until my lungs burned, pushing my body past exhaustion, that came easy. Pain didn't bother me. Quitting did. But what most people don't understand about the infantry is this. It's not just muscle and grit. People assume infantry Marines are the dumb ones because the GT score, your general technical score, doesn't have to be high. They think we're just trigger pullers. The truth is, infantry Marines are the backbone of the Marine Corps, but very few people want to do it. In the infantry, you don't just need to know your job. You have to know everyone's job. A radio operator needs to know how to call in air support, navigate terrain, read a map, and still fight like a rifleman. A squad leader needs to understand weapon systems, tactics, logistics, first aid, and morale. You have to think fast, adapt faster, and lead when everything around you is chaos. Every other MOS in the military needs to master one field and know the basics of infantry. But in the infantry, you master yours and theirs. That's what makes the grunt special. That's what made me fall in love with it. It demanded all of me, body, mind, and spirit. That's where the real lesson came in. Investing in yourself isn't just about showing up in the gym or running until you puke. That's surface level. The deeper investment is in your mindset, sharpening your awareness, discipline, and ability to stay calm when everything's going to hell. When I was in the Corps, every morning started with a test. Are you ready? Not do you feel like it? Not did you get enough sleep? Just are you ready? That's the mindset of a grunt, and it's the same mindset you need in life. Life doesn't care how you feel. The world is going to test you every day. The question is, are you ready for it? The Marines taught me that your body is the first tool you sharpen, and your mind is the armor that keeps it all together. If either one is dull, you're a liability to your team and to yourself. The body gets you through the fight. The mind decides if you survive it. That's why this chapter is called The First Investment. You don't start by buying things or chasing titles. You start by mastering yourself. Your body and your mind are the foundation for everything that comes next. When you build that foundation strong enough, you don't just carry yourself. You lift the people beside you. That's what leveling up really is, becoming the kind of person others can lean on when life gets heavy. Because when you're strong, ready, and disciplined, you give everyone around you permission to rise too. Key takeaway for the reader. Your first investment is not in money, comfort, or convenience. It's in the work you do on yourself every single day. Train your body to endure. Train your mind to adapt. When you master those two, everything else becomes possible. Chapter 3. Discipline over motivation. Life in the infantry will test every part of who you are. From the outside looking in, people think it's just chaos, bullets, explosions, and action like a war movie. But the truth? Most of it is routine, repetition, the same grind day after day, week after week. But within that grind is where greatness is forged. That's what civilians don't always understand. That's what even some Marines never figure out. There's something we talk about in the Corps called the fog of war. It's that uncertainty, not knowing what's coming next, not knowing what's waiting over the next hill. You plan, you prepare, but the fog is always there. You don't control it. You just learn how to move through it. That's how infantry life feels. It's redundant but unpredictable, structured but filled with chaos. A typical week looked like this. Every morning started at 0:30, long before the sun thought about rising. You roll out of bed half asleep, still sore from the day before. You throw on your uniform, tighten your boots, and hit morning PT. We'd run. We'd do push-ups, pull-ups, crunches. We'd push our bodies until they stopped listening to the mind's complaints. Then we'd head to chow, eat fast, and get back to the barracks to clean everything. Racks tight, floors spotless, gear squared away. After that came the armory. Weapons had to be spotless, inspected with Q-tips, no carbon anywhere. Every detail mattered. If you missed something, it showed that you weren't paying attention, and attention to detail was life or death in the field. While some of us cleaned weapons, others went down to the motor pool. Vehicles had to be fueled, checked, serviced, and ready. Nothing got overlooked. Everything had a process. Then came lunch. After lunch, we packed for the field. Every single item had to be accounted for. Skivvy shirts, socks, extra uniforms, an extra pair of boots, shelter halves, tent pins, water, everything. Gear inspections were no joke. If something was missing or not serviceable, you paid for it in sweat. By the time we finished, it was usually around 1700 or 5 o'clock, and we were finally done for the day. But that was just the warm-up. The next morning, it all started again. 0 dark 30, formation, chow, then back to the armory to grab our weapons and hit the field. If our training area was within 20 miles, we hiked. 20 miles, full packs, full gear, rifle slung, blisters, sweat, pain, it didn't matter. We moved. If it was over 20 miles, we loaded the vehicles. But most of the time, we were close enough to walk. Once we got to the field, it was non-stop. Training, patrolling, reacting to contact, practicing tactical movements, learning hand and arm signals, doing field exercises until muscle memory took over. We'd train Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. On Friday morning, we'd hear the abbreviation every grunt loved to hear, CSMO. That meant collect your shit and move out. We'd break down our tents, check weapons, make sure all gear was accounted for, eat a quick MRE, and hike back. Once we made it to the barracks, it wasn't over. We'd clean our gear, scrub our weapons again, turn everything back into the armory, and only then, usually around 1700 again, we were done. That was Friday. Saturday and Sunday were usually ours to breathe. Then Monday morning, the cycle started again. Some weeks we mixed it up, rappelling off towers, fast roping out of helicopters, doing amphibious operations, but most of it was that same grind, repetition, discipline. Here's the thing, motivation would never get you through that. There wasn't a single person out there who woke up every morning excited to clean weapons with a Q-tip or march 20 miles with 80 pounds on their back. Motivation burns out fast. Discipline doesn't. Motivation is loud, but it's temporary. Discipline is quiet, but it lasts forever. Every Marine learns that lesson the hard way. The ones who only relied on motivation broke down early. They'd lose focus, skip corners, or look for the easy route. The disciplined ones, they didn't care how they felt. They showed up every time. That's what life demands from you, too. Not a quick burst of motivation, but steady, consistent discipline. The kind that builds confidence because you know you're prepared. Discipline is what separates those who want to lift others from those who need lifting. When you build discipline, people can count on you. When you live by discipline, you become the foundation others can stand on. That's what the infantry gave me: structure, accountability, and the understanding that excellence isn't a feeling, it's a standard. It's what made me a Marine. It's what made me a leader. And later, it's what made me an entrepreneur. Because whether it's in combat, in business, or in life, the truth never changes. Motivation might get you started, but discipline keeps you going. Key takeaway for the reader. Discipline is the backbone of every success story. You won't always feel inspired, but you can always choose to show up. That's what separates the ones who level up from the ones who stay stuck. Chapter 4. The Power of Repetition. Every week, at least once, I put myself through what I call a 1,000-rep challenge. It doesn't matter what muscle group I'm hitting. It's about the principle, not the body part. Sometimes it's 1,000 reps on the leg press. Sometimes it's 1,000 push-ups. Sometimes it's 1,000 bent-over rows. Whatever it is, it's not about ego or proving something to anyone else. It's about discipline through repetition. See, I learned something in the Marine Corps that I still carry with me every single day. You don't have to be extreme. You just have to be consistent. People love to talk about motivation, but consistency is what separates winners from wishers. Motivation gets you started. Repetition keeps you sharp. Back in the Corps, when I was a drill instructor, repetition was everything. It didn't matter how many times we thought we'd perfected something, we did it again, and again, and again. We had inspections, tests, and evaluations, but there were two that mattered most: initial drill and final drill. These were the make or break moments. The precision, timing, and movement of your platoon reflected your leadership. The way your recruits executed those commands was a direct reflection of how much time, sweat, and discipline you had poured into them. Drill wasn't something you could halfway do. You had to live it. We practiced the basics: left face, right face, about face, column right, column left, flanking movements, etc., until every movement became second nature. We practiced while marching recruits to breakfast. We practiced marching them back from breakfast. We practiced marching them to classes, to chow, to the squad bays, and when most people would have called it a day, we practiced more. Hours in the evening, tightening every detail. It was tedious. It was long. It was exhausting. But it was necessary. Because when you practice something enough, it becomes a part of you. Your body learns it. Your mind sharpens it. It stops being effort. It becomes instinct. That's why Marines are known for their precision. That's why when you see a Marine drill team move, it looks effortless, like one body, one motion, one sound. But behind that perfection is hours, days, weeks, and months of relentless repetition. That same principle applies everywhere in life. You want to get better in the gym? Repeat the reps. You want to grow your business? Repeat the effort. You want to build your mindset? Repeat the habits. Repetition is what builds excellence. That's why I still do those 1,000 rep workouts. Not because I need them physically, but because I need them mentally. It's my reminder that mastery is built one rep at a time. When you commit to doing something over and over, it changes your wiring. You stop negotiating with your excuses. You stop overthinking. You just do the work. Repetition is the bridge between discipline and mastery. Every drill, every march, every workout, it all comes down to the same principle. Consistency compounds. So when I'm in the gym, grinding through rep number 873 or 950, I'm not thinking about the number. I'm thinking about the mindset. The Marine Corps taught me that excellence doesn't happen by accident. It happens through constant, deliberate repetition. And that's how you level up, by showing up over and over until excellence becomes your standard. Key takeaway for the reader. Success doesn't come from what you do once in a while. It comes from what you do every single day, even when you don't feel like it. Repetition builds rhythm. Rhythm builds confidence, and confidence builds mastery. Chapter 5. Embrace the grind. There comes a point in every journey, whether it's in the gym, in business, or in life, where the excitement fades. The progress slows down. The results stop coming easy. That's the wall. Everybody hits it. Most people stop there. But Marines, we push through it. The grind isn't supposed to feel good. It's supposed to test you. It's supposed to strip away the surface-level motivation and expose what's really underneath, your will. When I was in the Marine Corps, I learned that the real growth didn't happen on the easy days. It didn't come from the clean uniforms, the perfect formations, or the well-rested nights. It came from the days where you were drenched in sweat, sleep-deprived, and carrying 80 pounds of gear up a hill in the rain. Those were the days that built the mindset that carried me through everything that came later: business, leadership, entrepreneurship, and life. See, most people want the reward without the repetition, and they want the progress without the pain. But the grind is the gatekeeper. You don't get to skip it. When you hit that wall, when you've been consistent, when you've been doing the work, and it feels like nothing's changing, that's when most people start to question if it's even worth it. That's the exact moment you've got to dig deeper, because the grind is where champions are made. When I train, I don't chase comfort. I chase control. Control over my mind, my breath, my reactions, my attitude. Every rep past your breaking point is a statement. It says, I'm still here. And that's what separates those who level up from those who give up. There's a saying I love. It's simple, but it's the truth. You can't cheat the grind. It knows exactly how much work you've put in, and it won't give you anything you don't deserve. You can lie to other people. You can make excuses, blame circumstances, Talk about how hard you're trying. But the grind doesn't care. It keeps score. Around my gym, I've got quotes all over the walls. They aren't just there for decoration. They're there to wake people up, to remind them what this place is about. Every quote points right back to them. It's their journey, their responsibility. One of my favorites says, "Don't complain about the results you didn't get from the work you didn't do." That's the truth about life. You can't cheat the grind. Not in the gym, not in business, not in relationships, not in personal growth. Every rep, every sacrifice, every late night and early morning, it all counts. That's why every morning I'm up at 3:30 a.m. That's my time to think, to focus, to get my mind right. I always start with a positive thought, something to feed my mindset before the world starts pulling at me. I post my thought of the day on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok, not for attention, but to pour something out that might help someone else start strong. A reminder, a spark, a push. Then I fix myself something to eat, get cleaned up, and I'm at the gym by 5 a.m. sharp. That's when Rage Fitness opens. From 5 a.m. to 9 p.m., the grind doesn't stop. We train, we build, we grow. Now, I'm not always in the gym all day. I've got my supplements line, Salute Supplements, and other projects that keep me on the move. But the grind never ends. It just shifts forms. Because the truth is, grinding isn't about a place. It's about a mindset. It's about doing the work every single day, no matter what. The grind doesn't care if you're tired. It doesn't care if you're stressed. It doesn't care if you've had a bad day or if you've already done enough. It only cares about one thing. Did you show up and give it your all today? Every day you put in the work, you're making a deposit into your future. You're stacking bricks towards something greater, stronger muscles, sharper discipline, better habits, and a better version of yourself. When you keep doing that, when you keep showing up and refusing to quit, that's when you earn respect from the grind. That's when life starts to reward you with growth you can feel. You can't fake it. You can't shortcut it. You can't cheat it. You've got to embrace it. The grind knows, and it only gives back what you've earned. Key takeaway for the reader. The grind isn't your enemy. It's your reflection. It shows you who you really are every single day. You can't cheat it, you can't fake it, and you can't talk your way around it. You've got to meet it head on, over and over again, because every time you do, you become stronger, physically, mentally, and spiritually. Chapter 6. From the Grind to Growth. The same mindset that carried me through the Marine Corps carried me into everything I've done since. Building Rage Fitness, launching Salute Supplements, writing books, speaking, and creating a brand that reaches people all over the world. That mindset was simple. Do the work, no excuses. But that mindset didn't start in the military. It started long before that, back when I was just a kid trying to make it. Behind our house, there was this old shed. I think it used to be a smokehouse. It looked like one, small, worn down, smelled like time and hard work. I never saw anybody smoke meat in it, but that's what it looked like. Behind that smokehouse was a little patch of cleared land. That's where I planted my first business. I didn't have money growing up. We were on welfare, and if I wanted to play sports, wrestle, or do anything, I had to figure out a way to make money. So I started growing marijuana behind that smokehouse. A friend and I even tried smoking it once. It really didn't do anything to me, and it definitely didn't do anything for me, so that was the extent of my smoking days. Plus, I learned a quote later on, "Never get high on your own supply." I was following the rules before I even knew that there were rules. I'd grow it, dry it, pull the seeds out, bag it up, and sell it. That was my hustle. I had a few regulars, good friends of mine, kids like me just trying to figure life out. But looking back now, it's hard to say it didn't do damage. One of those friends ended up spending time in jail. Another one, a good friend, is now serving a triple life sentence for a triple homicide. I can't say what I did caused any of that, but I know it sure didn't help. And if I'm being honest, I was lost too. That same grind that helped me make it through tough times could have easily destroyed me if I didn't learn how to redirect it. Back then, I thought hustling meant doing whatever it took, whether it was right or wrong, just to stay ahead. I used to even take old raffle tickets from school fundraisers for wrestling, whatever, and sell them to people knowing they couldn't win because the drawings were over. I'd tell myself it was for the right reasons. I wanted to play. I wanted to belong. I wanted to do something with my life. Deep down, I knew it wasn't right. That was the early version of my grind, survival mode. I didn't understand at the time that hustle without direction is chaos. It took me years and a whole lot of hard lessons to understand that if I could channel that same energy, that same drive, into something positive, I could build something real. That's what the Marine Corps taught me, how to discipline the grind, how to turn raw hustle into structured growth. When I look back now, I realize that the kid who was growing weed behind a smokehouse and selling fake raffle tickets wasn't a bad kid. He was just hungry. Hungry to win, hungry to prove something, hungry to survive. That hunger never left me. I just learned to feed it differently. Now that same grind is what fuels my businesses. It's what keeps me waking up at 3:30 every morning. It's what built Rage Fitness, a place where people can take their pain and turn it into purpose. It's what created Salute Supplements, a company built on discipline, consistency, and pride. And it's what helped me become an author, someone who took what he once failed at, English class, and turned it into a way to reach thousands of people. Every part of my journey, the good, the bad, the ugly, was all training. Training for growth, training for purpose, training for leadership. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. You can't control where you start, but you can control where you grind. I started with nothing but a hustle and a hunger, but over time, I learned to grind smarter. I learned to invest in myself, in my character, in my health, and in my mission. That's what from the grind to growth means. It's not about changing who you are. It's about transforming how you use what's already inside you. The same fire that once had me doing the wrong thing now fuels everything I do right. That's the power of investing in yourself. When you grow, you don't just change your life, you change your legacy. Key takeaway for the reader. We all start somewhere. Maybe your grind started in survival mode too. But growth begins when you learn to redirect that same fire into purpose. Your past doesn't define you. Your discipline does. Every mistake can become a lesson. Every hustle can become a business. And every struggle can become your strength when you choose to grow through it. Chapter 7. The Cost of Growth. I was taught that life is like an elevator. On the way up, sometimes you gotta stop and let some people off. That's the hard truth nobody tells you when you start leveling up. The higher you go, the fewer people can breathe that same air with you. Not because they're bad people, but because they're not built for that altitude. It's happened to me a few times. One time, I came home from the military. I think it was for my grandmother's or grandfather's funeral. One of my good friends, a guy I really looked up to, one of the OGs I respected, walked in. I was so excited to see him. He wasn't just a friend. He was someone I used to learn from, someone who helped shape me back in the day. After the funeral, I went up to talk to him. I thought we'd reconnect, laugh about old times, maybe grab a drink and catch up. He wanted nothing to do with me. He told me, "Man, you've changed." He didn't mean it as a compliment. He said I wasn't the same because I wasn't out drinking, fighting, and getting into trouble anymore. Because I had joined the Marine Corps and was trying to walk a straight line. That hurt. It hit deep. That was someone I respected, someone who once had my back. But I realized that what he saw as change was actually growth. What he saw as distance was actually discipline. That day, I understood something important. Not everyone who started with you is meant to finish with you. It happened again another time. I came home from the military, went back to my hometown, and visited an area where I used to hang out. We called it D Block in Denton. I was standing on Gay Street with some of the guys I grew up with, friends I'd gone to school with, spent summers with, got into trouble with back then. Shortly after, I saw another friend, White, pull up to the stoplight. I hadn't seen him in a while, so I yelled out, "Yo, White, what's going on, man?" Before I could even move toward him, his window shattered. At first, I ducked, not knowing what was happening. Glass flying, chaos breaking out. Then I realized the same guys I was standing on the corner with had thrown beer bottles at his car, and then they started shooting. White sped off, and I stood there in the middle of it. the middle of something I had no part of, something I didn't want any part of. And in that moment, I made a decision. I said to myself, I can't do this anymore. This isn't who I am. I wasn't better than them, but I was trying to be better than I used to be. And that meant I couldn't stand on that corner anymore. That moment, that shattered glass, it represented a breaking point, a line between the old me and the man I was becoming. When I went back to the Marine Corps after that, I was more focused than ever because I knew if I didn't keep growing, I'd end up stuck in the same cycle I came from. That's the cost of growth. It's walking away from what's familiar. It's leaving behind people who once felt like family. It's choosing discipline over comfort and purpose over nostalgia. Sometimes the hardest part isn't saying goodbye to them. It's saying goodbye to the version of yourself that still wanted to belong. But that's what growth demands. Growth says you can't take everyone with you. Growth says you can love people from a distance. Growth says you can miss people without going back to where you found them. At the end of the day, when people say you've changed, just smile and say, you're damn right I did. I was supposed to. Because if your circle doesn't challenge you, it's not a circle, it's a cage. Key takeaway for the reader. Change doesn't mean you've turned your back on where you came from. It means you've finally turned toward where you're going. Growth will cost you comfort, familiarity, and sometimes people you love. But the price is worth it when your purpose becomes bigger than your past. Chapter 8. Finding new purpose, peace, and people aligned with your mission. I had to learn the hard way that not everyone wants to see you succeed. It's not always that they want to see you fail, it's that they're afraid you'll outgrow them. They fear that when you level up, you'll look back and realize you don't need their approval anymore. And the truth is, they're right. Growth changes what you tolerate, what you chase, and who you surround yourself with. I think I was in my 30s when I first learned that I could actually start a business. Up until then, I had no clue there was even an option for someone like me. Where I came from, the message was simple. You grow up, you get a job, you work for someone else until you retire. You get your little gold watch, and you fade off into the sunset. That was the dream, or at least that's what we were told. Nobody ever came around saying, hey, you can build your own thing. You can create something from nothing. You can own your own time, your vision, your legacy. We weren't taught that where I came from. We were taught to survive, not to build. We were taught to work hard for someone else, not for ourselves. Although my grandfather was a farmer and was self-sustaining, I was too young to recognize it as a business. Because of that, I never even considered owning a business. I knew about hustling. I knew about selling marijuana, about people who ran drugs or prostitution. Back then, I didn't even realize those were businesses. Wrong businesses, yes, but still businesses, run with structure, supply and demand, product, marketing, even customer loyalty. Nobody ever said, hey, you can take that same mindset, that same grind, and build something legit. It wasn't until I was working in gyms, training clients for big corporate fitness chains, that the light bulb went off. I started meeting people, regular people, who owned small businesses. One guy told me he owned a carpentry business. My first thought was that he must have some big building, a whole company, trucks, offices, and a bunch of employees. Nope, it was just him and a couple of guys working out of a small shop. Then I met a plumber, same thing. He ran his own business with a few workers, making a good living. Then a mechanic, same story. That blew my mind. I thought, you can really just start something like that? It wasn't about millions of dollars or huge corporations. It was about freedom, the freedom to do things your way. That realization changed everything. Because up to that point, I'd been training people in these big-name gyms that were more like meat markets than fitness centers. Nobody cared about the grind, about discipline, about self-improvement. It was all about the mirror and the money. That didn't sit right with me. I didn't like the rules, the fake motivation, the way they treated people like numbers instead of souls, trying to get better. So I said, screw it. I'll build my own. That's when Rage Fitness was born. I didn't have much, just belief, experience, and that Marine Corps mindset of adapt and overcome. But what I did have was vision. I knew what kind of environment I wanted to create. A place where people could come in and face themselves, grow, feel safe, and get stronger, not just physically, but mentally. Once Rage Fitness started, it was like the floodgates opened. That spark turned into a fire. That same energy I used to survive, I used to build. Then came Salute Supplements, the clothing line, the speaking, the books. All of it grew out of that one decision: to stop waiting for permission to grow, to stop asking for someone else's opportunity, and start creating my own. Through it all, I started finding my people. People who weren't threatened by my ambition. People who weren't intimidated by my discipline. People who wanted to rise with me, not pull me down. Because when you start walking in your purpose, your energy changes. And when your energy changes, so does your circle. Purpose brings peace. Peace brings clarity, and clarity brings the right people. That's when I realized success isn't about the money, the titles, or the trophies. It's about alignment. It's about waking up every day knowing that what you're building means something. Once you find that, once you find your purpose and your people, you never go back to who you were before. Key takeaway for the reader. Your purpose doesn't start when you have everything figured out. It starts when you decide to stop settling. You won't find peace in comfort. You'll find it in the struggle of building something that's yours. And when you walk in that purpose, the right people will always find you. Chapter 9. Building Legacy. Level up to lift up. There comes a point in your life where the grind has to mean something more than survival, where all the pain, the lessons, the hard days, and lonely nights have to add up to something bigger than just you. That's what legacy is. Legacy isn't about leaving behind money or buildings or a name on a wall. Legacy is about impact. It's about people remembering how you made them feel. It's about changing lives, one rep, one word, one example at a time. That's what level up to lift up means to me. When I first started, I was grinding just to survive. I was trying to escape my past, to prove to myself that I could be more than what I came from. But somewhere along the way, that grind turned into purpose. Rage Fitness wasn't just a gym, it became a community. It became a place where people walked in broken and left stronger, where they found accountability, discipline, and a sense of belonging that this world rarely gives anymore. When I see someone walk into my gym, struggling, lost, overweight, or doubting themselves, I see me. I see the kid who grew up in chaos, who didn't know his worth, who didn't believe he could be more than his environment. So I push them. I hold them accountable, because I know that if they can learn to believe in themselves here, inside these four walls, they can carry that same fire out into their life. That's legacy. It's not the weights they lift. It's the confidence they build. It's not the sweat on the floor. It's the mental toughness they walk out with. Salute Supplements came from that same place. I didn't want to just sell a product. I wanted to sell belief. When someone wears the Salute logo, I want them to feel like they're part of something bigger. Like they're saluting themselves for showing up, for fighting back, for not giving up. And the books? Man, the books became my way to reach people who may never walk through my gym doors. These stories, my life, my mistakes, my lessons, they're not just for me to talk about where I've been. They're for the next man or woman who's sitting there wondering if they can come back from their lowest point. They're for the kid who thinks the world has already decided who he's going to be. They're for the person who feels forgotten, overlooked, or stuck. Because I've been there. I know what it feels like to think there's no way out. But the truth is, there is, and it starts with you. That's why I tell people, you level up so you can lift up. You don't just grow to brag about how far you've come. You grow so you can reach back and pull someone else up the ladder. That's what leadership really is. That's what being a man, a mentor, and a servant of purpose really means. Legacy isn't about power. It's about service. It's about making sure the next person doesn't have to go through the same pain alone. That's what drives me every day. That's why I wake up at 3:30 in the morning. That's why I keep pushing, keep writing, keep building. My mission isn't just about me anymore. It's about the people I can impact along the way. And that's the beautiful thing about purpose. Once you find it, it stops being work. It becomes your oxygen. It becomes who you are. So when people ask me, Kenny, why do you do it? Why do you still grind the way you do? I tell them it's because somebody out there needs to see it. Somebody out there needs proof that they can make it too. If I can be that proof, then every scar, every loss, every late night and early morning was worth it. That's legacy. That's leveling up to lift up. Key takeaway for the reader. Your growth isn't just for you. It's for the people watching you, the ones you'll never even meet. When you level up, you light the way for others to rise. That's how you build a legacy that lasts beyond your name, by lifting others while you climb. Chapter 10. The final charge. The weight you carry becomes the strength you give. When I look back on my life, I see a trail of battles. Some I won, some I lost, but all of them shaped me. Every scar, every loss, every sleepless night had a purpose. I didn't always understand it while I was going through it, but now I see it clearly. The weight I carried, the pain, the discipline, the struggle, that became my strength. And that strength became something I could give to others. That's what life is really about. It's not about avoiding the pain. It's about using it. You take that pain, turn it into fuel, and build something with it. You build yourself. You build others. You build legacy. For years, I thought success was about money, titles, and recognition. But none of that means a damn thing if you're empty on the inside. True success is waking up every day with peace, purpose, and a fire in your gut to make a difference. It's knowing who you are, what you stand for, and who you're fighting for. I've learned that leadership isn't standing in front, it's standing beside. It's about walking through the fire first so others know they can make it too. It's about being the calm in the chaos and the example when words aren't enough. I won't lie, it comes with a cost. The higher you climb, the lonelier it gets. You'll lose friends, you'll be misunderstood. People will question your motives, doubt your vision, and try to pull you back down. But when you're on a mission, you don't owe explanations, you owe execution. See, we all have a choice. We can live in the pain that broke us, or we can grow from it. We can let the weight crush us, or we can use it to get stronger. The difference between those two is mindset. It's ownership, discipline, and heart. That's why I wrote this book, not to tell my story for sympathy, but to show what's possible when you refuse to quit. To prove that your past doesn't define you, your persistence does. That you can rise from anything if you decide to own it, learn from it, and move forward. I don't know where you are right now in your life. Maybe you're fighting a battle nobody sees. Maybe you're doubting yourself or stuck in a place you swore you'd never be again. I've been there, but I'm telling you, this ain't where your story ends. Your pain has a purpose. Your struggle has meaning, and everything you've gone through is preparing you for what's next. So when life gets heavy, carry it anyway. When people fall off, keep climbing. When you feel alone, remember, growth requires isolation before elevation. Because one day, someone's going to look at you and say, "Because of you, I didn't give up." That's when it all makes sense. That's when you realize the weight you carried was never just yours. It was the strength you were meant to give away. So keep pushing, keep building, keep leveling up, and never forget, when you rise, you lift others with you. That's the mission, that's the mindset, that's the legacy. Epilogue. The mission continues. As I sit here reflecting on everything, the boy I was, the Marine I became, the man I am now, I can't help feel but grateful. Grateful for the lessons, the losses, the pain, and the people who shaped me, whether they stayed in my life or not. Grateful for the grind, for the mornings that started before the sun came up, and for every door that slammed in my face, because those moments built me. I've learned that growth isn't a destination, it's a mindset, it's a daily choice. You don't wake up one day and arrive at success. You wake up and decide to chase it again and again. You decide to keep leveling up, not for the applause, not for the trophies, but to lift others higher. That's what this whole journey has been about. Leveling up so I could lift up. Lifting up my family, my community, my brothers and sisters in arms, my gym members, my team, my people. Every book I write, every speech I give, every rep I push, it's not about me anymore. It's about showing others what's possible when you stop making excuses and start making moves. I look at Rage Fitness and Salute supplements, and I see more than just a gym or a brand. I see a movement, a place where people come to break chains, not just physical ones, but mental ones. I see men and women learning discipline, finding confidence, and discovering that their strength runs deeper than muscle. As for me, I'm still grinding, still growing, still waking up early, still writing, still fighting to be better than I was yesterday. The mission doesn't end when you reach one level. It just begins again on a higher one. If there's one thing I want you to take from this book, it's this. You have the power to transform your pain into purpose. You have the ability to level up, no matter where you started or what you've been through. But when you do, don't forget to reach back and lift someone else. That's where the real reward is. That's where fulfillment lives. So keep going, keep showing up, keep becoming who you were meant to be, and remember, you don't climb just to stand on top of the mountain. You climb so you can reach down and pull someone else up. Level up to lift up. That's the mission. That's the code. That's how legacies are built. About the author. Kenny is a retired U.S. Marine Corps and Army combat veteran who overcame the trauma of war, personal hardship, and life-altering adversity to become a business owner, founder, entrepreneur, motivational speaker, and mentor coach. Today, he empowers students across the country with raw, real-life stories of struggle, growth, and triumph. You've been listening to Level Up to Lift Up by Kenny Knight III. Read by Rick Gines.